Hey everybody, happy Friday. It's me, Chaz Christopher. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. So the weather has been all over the place here in New York, which gave me a little extra time to read and inspired me to share with you 3 books that I love and I think can help change your life. So grab a drink and let's talk about these books.
Read a book, read a book, read 'em all. Book, read a book, read a book, read 'em all. Book, read a book, read a book, read 'em all.
All right, let's get this going. So my first book is the one that I actually just finished because of this crazy weather. I've seen it all over Instagram, as I'm sure you have, and I'm so blessed that a friend actually bought it for me and I got to enjoy it. That is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And just as this title suggests, there's going to be explicit language within this book. So worth it, and actually helps create part of its charm. What I love that Mark does in this book is he doesn't sugarcoat it. Most self-help books you get, it's all sugarcoated, think positive, be happy, blah, blah, blah. That's not this. Mark is very real with you and actually draws from Buddhism, which I love, in that main principle that life is suffering. No matter what you do, that's always gonna be there. What you have to do as the person is be happy within the suffering. Accept the suffering and find happiness within it. If you think that $1 million is also gonna make you happy, once you attain that $1 million, a whole new set of circumstances that is gonna cause different areas of suffering is gonna happen. And if you never mastered the art of just being happy within the midst of suffering and accepting that there will always be suffering, you're never gonna get anywhere. The book is titled The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which suggests that he's teaching you how not to give a fuck about anything, but that's not necessarily true. He makes you reevaluate where are you giving those fucks to and where you really should be giving those fucks. A great read, I highly recommend it, a nice eye-opener. Yeah, there may be pages where you're like, this is nothing new, but it's definitely gonna make you think of things that you don't necessarily think in your everyday life. Book number 2. So it's been a few years since I've read this book. The book's called The Next America, which suggests it's projecting what America is going to be like. But obviously for us to know what America is going to be like, we have to know where we came from. And the people at the Pew Research do an amazing job of that. This book is filled with actual facts and numbers to back it up. Lots and lots of research have gone into this. So many times nowadays we get on Facebook or other social media platforms and memes are posted about, I don't know, immigration or something like this, and 9 out of 10 times those memes are incorrect and they have no actual sources to back it up. Not so with this book. This book is absolutely amazing. If you are not a person in America, this book covers the entire world. Obviously specifically America, but America has a huge role on the world stage, and he covers that. The main point of this book is the difference between the different generations. The 2 biggest generations being baby boomers and millennials. Now, within those 2 generations, there's a huge gap. What technology has done to divide that gap, what social economics has done to divide that gap, it's all in this book. He describes it so beautifully, and it really helps you understand your fellow Americans better. It helps you understand yourself better. I think if every American had the opportunity to read this, oh, how different our politics would be, how much more in-depth conversations we could have, how I don't think people would run away from a political conversation as easily because you have so much eye-opening information here. Now, Paul, the writer of this book, is very optimistic that Americans will be able to figure out their differences and ultimately be okay. This book was written a couple years ago. I would be very interested to see what Paul's new version is. I'm sure the people at the Pew Research are working on tons of new data now, and we're gonna see how far we've come since this book was put out. Eye-opening read, highly, highly recommended. My last book for now, there's definitely gonna be more of these videos, is Sapiens. If you have followed me on Instagram or anything, you watched my last TV show called Silly Sapiens, you know that I talk about this book a lot. It is a book I wish that every high school student got to read. This really is the history of us as humans. I mean, it even says a brief history of humankind. So don't let that scare you because it's really thick. He is such a good author. You don't feel like you're reading this heavy information. It reads very easily. I will say that there may be some moments that if you are sensitive to the reality you have built around yourself, or what society has told you as the norm. So maybe a certain religion, or you're big into capitalism, or you're big into Christianity. He is very frank with you and reminds you that these are all beliefs. There's nothing there to back up these beliefs. So when you are reading this, he will be quite frank with you. But what is super cool is he tells you how we started all of these beliefs, where they all came from, how gossip has transformed humankind. If we didn't have the ability to gossip early on, what us Homo sapiens have made it as far as we have. He also talks about something like the agricultural revolution. The agricultural revolution, we look at it now as something that was amazing to happen to humankind, but for those humans going through it at the time, it was actually horrendous. They were dying sooner, they were getting totally different diseases they hadn't had before because they had settled down. Now, all of these things were happening so slowly that there was nothing they could really do about it in the time being. It wasn't until scholars were able to look back at the issue and think, oh wow, humans really started dying, their life expectancy started changing a lot. Now, most people, we think of the agricultural revolution, and that's when humankind really got to start populating, and that is true. So while they were having people die sooner, whenever you were able to have 6 kids versus 2 kids because you were on the go, if 3 of those kids didn't make it, 3 other kids still did, and therefore it kept going on. Even in the invention of money and what money has done, it is an eye-opening experience that you cannot go into this book the same person as you would when you leave the book. You will definitely leave the book woke and a better human being because you understand yourself better and you understand society around you better. Well, those were 3 books I believe can change your life. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of those and what your thoughts were. Also, if you have 3 books that you recommend, leave it in the comments below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And most importantly, you do you, I'll do me, and I'll see you next Friday.